Good morning, afternoon, and evening, and everything in between. I'm the Canadian, and today I'm going to be doing a video that's a little bit different from either my Transformers 1 reviews or my N-Scale videos. So I am in the same area I do my Transformers reviews, but we're actually covering... It's an N-Scale video. But the topic today is going to be my freelance railroad that my entire N-scale layouts and railway centers around. Now the name of this railway, I've called it Duffy Line Railway. I named it after one of my cats. His name was McDuff. We also called him Duffy. And he was a big fluffy. He was a big Maine Coon. He was fluffy as ever. And yeah, he unfortunately passed a few years ago. And he was my cat. Well, technically he was my mom's cat, but he was my cat. And I decided that I was going to name the road after him. So this railway, it's freelanced, but it does sort of have a prototype to it. And that's what I'm going to be showing today. I have, on one side of the room, I have my computer set up here to show you the geographical area of where it is. Unfortunately, it's not on this computer, but information on the prototype of this railway is hard to find. Luckily, thanks to my dad, he found some, thanks to the UBC Archive Library and the BC Archives. So, without further ado, I will... it worked. Okay. So the Duffy Line Railway goes along Harrison Lake. It goes from Port Douglas all the way up, all the way up from the tip of the lake. Maybe it's easier if I use two hands for this. So from the tip of the lake up here, you can see my scroller, all the way down the east side of the lake, and oh boy, where am I going? There I am. Through this side here, through Greenpoint, into the village of Harrison, and then down, follows the mountainside here into Agassiz, and then continues down and meets up along here with, oh no, it's up here, with the Southern Railway Bridge, Columbia, and Chilliwack. Now, the prototype for this railway was started in, I believe, I want to say late 1800s. Again, information is not easily found. It took us a while to find what we could. And it was basically it was a logging railway back long time. I believe ended, or the latest picture we found was 1939, and that was, I believe, towards the end of it. But it was based off of a logging railway called Greenpoint Logging Company, and they were responsible for a lot of the logging along the Harrison Lake area. And they had a logging railway that came down, again, the east side, down into almost the village area. Now, from what I know, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, because again, there's not a lot of information. Where am I here? Here we go. From what I know, and the pictures that I have found, the railway did end around here where the current breakwater is, where it did go out and dump logs into the lake. Fortunately, my railway will not feature that. Now, none of my layouts have anything to do with, I mean, the closest thing would be the first level of my layout, which is supposed to be Port Douglas, which my railway starts in Port Douglas, continues on to Pemberton, but I won't be showing that. So yeah, my main layout, first level is Port Douglas. Second level is Chilliwack, because I made everything in an off order. Don't ask me why. I didn't think it through. And then third level is Agassiz. Yeah, I didn't think of the order. And then, yeah, the other layouts and everything, they're not related. But, no, so basically the storyline behind my railway, fictional, but based off of the prototype, was at the end of the logging boom, private investor decided to take advantage of the dying out logging railway area, and at that point, you know, Port Douglas was turning into what it is now, which is basically almost a ghost town. I do know that it is, I believe, a part of a First Nations reserve, Port Douglas First Nations. And he decided to turn it into a short line railway. To prevent the dying out of Port Douglas, the railway was continued down into Agassiz, serving as originally mainly as passenger service with limited freight, though at that time it hasn't really picked up yet. Eventually, the railway was continued to Pemberton, giving a link from the CN line down into the Canadian Pacific line and Agassiz, and then on to the CN line and Southern Railway of British Columbia and Chilliwack. Why do I keep doing that? But as you can see here, I'm going to zoom out all the way. So Port Douglas is up here, Harrison, Agassiz, into Chilliwack. So it's a fair length. You know, it's a nice, good-sized lake. But, you know, over time, freight picked up, fictionally in my rail world. Ferry service opened up from Harrison Hot Springs up to Port Douglas, as well as to Echo Island and Long Island. Henceforth by the ferry models. Now for Echo Island, the ferry terminal is right in the village, run by Harrison Lake Ferries. I really need to use two hands on this. And the terminal is placed in the village for Echo Island right here. There's boat parking in reality. But the terminal does share the boat launch. The ferry is specially built to accommodate the boat launch without having to build new infrastructure. Parking for boats are on both sides of the road, and the terminal lanes and everything is here. Oh, and there's parking in there. Whereas for Long Island is up by Killer's Cove, or Marina, by the breakwater. Right next to Rockwell Drive. The ferry would come in here. This would be built up. And you have ferry terminal to Long Island and Port Douglas, and then Port Douglas to Harrison Hot Springs or Long Island, and then Long Island to Echo Island. The major routes, the Long Island and Port Douglas, would be BC ferries. So eventually, over time, the Duffy Line starts getting into more freight. It even gets some more, or not some more, but some of its own rolling stock and locomotives, but continues its passenger lines, and it begins to modernize as well, eventually serving Pemberton, Port Douglas, Harrison Hot Springs, Agassiz, a branch up to Seabird Island, a possible extension to Harrison Mills, into Agassiz, and then on to Rosedale, Chilliwack for passenger and freight service. There's not really much more about that. There's a main station in Agassiz, as well as a station in Harrison, located near the village. Eventually, when I build my main layout, you know, the day when I'm ever able to move out on my own and build a layout, hopefully prototypical to what I want to build, I would be able to explain a lot more. But right now, I mean, that's all the information I have on my layout. I have a logo of my company. I just haven't turned it into decals yet. But I do have locomotive and rolling stock for my railway. So I'll show you that right now. Ouch. And here it is. This is a majority of my Duffy Line rolling stock and locomotive fleet. Unfortunately, there are a couple pieces that aren't here because for some reason I can't find them. And that is part of the passenger service. It is a Kato Super Hitachi set. It gives it, use it as commuter passenger. But I'll go through each of these pieces individually. Starting at the back, I have what I'm resembling as the oldest passenger train of the Duffy Line fleet. It is called the Raven. It is powered by one F7, represented by this dummy Bachmann, with two retired Amfleet cars that Duffy Line bought, and a retired Metroliner car, hooked up for a push-pull service. Another thing I just thought of, I just remembered from the history of my railway, as it does run through First Nations land and reserves, it does hold a partnership with local First Nations. Any work offers or services provided by this railway goes through the First Nations bands and councils first before actual municipalities, as well as work opportunities, as per Duffy Line Railway Code of Conduct, I guess? I'm working out the kinks of the history. Duffy Line Railway does still use cabooses? Cabooses? I'll go with caboose. So here I have them represented here. This is a, what does this say? The Belt Railway of Chicago. Oh, a Chicago Belt. I didn't really mean to pick up that or when I got it, but it gave me the inspiration for the color scheme, or the original color scheme for Duffy Line. So I went with that. And then, so that is an Atlas caboose there that I used for Duffy Line. And then these two are Bachmann cabooses that I painted up in that scheme. Before I go on, I'm just going to let you know that Duffy Line also has a variety of paint schemes. As you can see on the F7 here, it is a black with gray slant. And there's also just black and gray with the body being black and the body being gray, the cab being black. There's also the modern scheme, which is the cream and green, as well as a passenger scheme, which is gray with green, which you'll see in a little bit. So yeah, over here with this end caboose here, this Atlas one, that is an example of the cream and green scheme there. And then over here we have your Microtrain's grain hopper, one of, and in the cream and green. And then we have this multi-purpose hopper, cream and green with black on the bottom, which shows it was a transition. This boxcar here in the cream and green. This one is, it runs on Duffy Line. It's a gray and black scheme. Same with this 40-foot boxcar used for maintenance. And then this one, which is just cream. These two tank cars here are used for Duffy Line, not painted yet. And then a 2-bay hopper in the gray and black. Coming down here, we have locomotives. Number 486, which has probably been seen before on operation videos. As well as these two GP30s are in the gray and black middle scheme. The C424 and SD24 and MP15 are in the cream and green scheme, the new cream and green scheme, whereas this F59, which is used for both passenger and freight service by Duffy Line, is in the what is known as the passenger scheme, modern passenger, which is the gray and green. And then down here we have, it's off colors. There's this unit here, I forget what road it was supposed to be. I bought it secondhand and it was off of another freelance. I'm going to be changing the logos on that. But this is an RSC, RSC2 I believe. And then I have two demonstrators, the Dash 8 and the SD70, featured on this channel before. It keeps in these schemes, but leases out for heavy freight service, for CN and CP. But yeah, that has been the introduction to my freelance railway. Eventually, I'll have a more thought out storyline and explanation of the railway, but that's all I got so far. If you like this video, click that like button down below. If you want to see more, click that subscribe button. It's free to subscribe. And as always, I always encourage you to leave a comment down below. As well, in the description down below is a link to my Instagram page, the Canadian A. You can head over there. I got some stuff going on that page. And you can give that one a follow as well. So with that, that'll mark the end of this video. And I'll see you in the next one.